Imagine for a second that you're just standing on a beach.
Okay.
And the water is suddenly rushing backward, far away from the shore.
Right, like a tsunami pullback.
Exactly. Now, you could stand there in the sand and panic about the tidal wave that is inevitably coming to wipe out the coastline. Or you could quickly learn how to build a surfboard.
I like that analogy.
The world of work as we know it is undergoing that exact kind of seismic pullback right now. But rather than panicking about being replaced by a machine, we need to completely reframe the situation.
Yeah, we really do.
The real question you need to be asking yourself right now isn't whether AI is going to replace you. The question is, how fast can you merge with it?
It really is the ultimate adapt or die moment,
Yeah.
I mean, in modern history. And what's so striking when you look at the data is that the timeline for making that adaptation is
Shrinking.
dramatically shrinking. The window of opportunity to figure this out is not a decade away. It is happening in real time.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to explore a concept that is frankly going to dictate the rest of your professional and personal life.
100%.
We are talking about the new human. We're going to uncover what happens when humans actively augment themselves with these new technologies.
Right.
How the fundamental value of your human skills is radically shifting beneath your feet. And most importantly, how you can avoid being left behind.
To do this, we are synthesizing a really incredible stack of sources today.
It's a heavy stack.
It is. We're pulling from a data-enriched script titled Chem 3, which acts as a master synthesis of some incredibly heavy-hitting research.
Right.
We're looking at data from the Oxford Martin School, insights from the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI, plus the foundational book, The Age of AI and Our Human Future, by Kissinger, Schmidt, and Huttenlocher.
And we also have the broader historical perspectives of Yuval Noah Harari in there, too. It is a massive stack of knowledge, but we are going to distill it down into the absolute essentials you need to know to navigate this shift. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
I want to jump straight into a crucial distinction our sources make right out of the gate, because we hear the term artificial intelligence constantly.
Everywhere.
But the shift we are seeing in the high-level research, the real shift, is toward augmented intelligence.
Yes.
I saw this term in The Age of AI and Our Human Future, and they introduce it as the centaur model.
The centaur model.
I know what a centaur is in mythology, you know, the half-human, half-horse creature. But how does that translate into the data we're looking at here?
The mythological analogy is actually perfect because it implies two distinct entities merging to create something stronger and faster than either could be on its own.
Right.
Artificial intelligence has historically been framed as a separate entity, a tool in a box.
Like a calculator.
It's exactly like a calculator. You hand it the task and it hands you a result. But augmented intelligence, or this centaur model, is about continuous symbiotic integration.
Yeah.
You aren't just using a tool. You are collaborating with a cognitive partner.
Okay, so what does that actually mean for performance?
The hard data behind this model is what really wakes you up. When researchers put a human and an AI together in this centaur model, they don't just perform a little bit better or process data a little faster.
Right.
The research shows that this collaborative model outperforms pure AI, and it outperforms pure humans in complex decision-making by a staggering 35%.
Wait. 35%.
35%.
I really want to stop and make sure that sinks in for you listening. If you are in any competitive field, let's say you're in medicine or law, corporate strategy, or even creative arts,
Sure.
a 35% advantage is not just an edge, it is a monopoly.
Oh, yeah, it's game over.
If two hedge funds are competing and one has a 35% better decision-making matrix, the other fund doesn't just lose, it gets entirely wiped off the map.
Utterly destroyed.
How does that practically look in the data, though? What is driving that massive leap in performance?
The leap comes from covering each other's blind spots. An advanced large language model can process millions of data points, recognize obscure patterns, and generate massive amounts of text or code in seconds.
Right, processing power.
But it lacks contextual intuition.
Yes.
It lacks the ability to read the room, understand human nuance, or instinctively know when a piece of data, while technically accurate, is practically useless in the real world.
Because it doesn't live in the real world.
Exactly. A human has that intuition, but has terrible processing speed and memory compared to a machine.
We're slow.
We are very slow. But when you combine them, the human acts as the strategic director, pointing the immense processing power of the AI in the exact right direction.
And course correcting.
Instantly course correcting when the AI starts to hallucinate or drift.
So the takeaway for you listening is that you do not need to beat the machine.
No.
Trying to outprocess or outmemorize an algorithm is a losing game anyway.
You will lose every time.
Your goal is to become the centaur. The new human isn't competing with the technology, they are riding it.
Riding it, perfectly said.
And that leads directly into the next massive paradigm shift we are seeing in the sources, which completely upends how we value human capability. For the last century, our society, our educational systems, and our corporate ladders fundamentally worshipped IQ.
That has been the defining metric of success since the Industrial Revolution. We valued raw processing power, logical deduction, and the ability to retain and manipulate complex information.
Who is the smartest person in the room, basically?
Right. If you could hold the most variables in your head, you were the most valuable person in the company.
But the sources are pointing out that logic is basically becoming a commodity now.
It is.
It's like electricity. In the 1800s, generating your own power was a massive competitive advantage. You could run your factory at night.
Huge advantage.
Now you just plug into the wall and expect the power to be there. We take it for granted. I was looking at the Oxford Martin School data in our stack, and they are tracking the depreciation of traditional hard skills.
The numbers are wild.
They are almost hard to believe.
Yeah.
They found that skills like advanced, high-level coding, rote, data manipulation, and quantitative analysis are actively depreciating in market value at a rate of 25% per year.
25% a year. The proliferation of large language models is driving that depreciation directly.
Yeah.
When an everyday tool that anyone can access on their phone can write flawless Python code, analyze a spreadsheet with 100,000 rows, and draft a legally sound contract in under 10 seconds.
The premium vanishes.
The premium society places on a human doing those things just completely vanishes.
I mean, think about that from a personal investment standpoint. You could spend 4 years in college taking out massive student loans to learn a specific programming language or a highly technical data entry skill.
Right.
By the time you graduate, the market value of that specific skill set has quartered itself annually. You're essentially learning to manually weave fabric while the mechanical loom is being installed next door.
Which forces a very uncomfortable realization for a lot of professionals.
Extremely uncomfortable.
If the hard skills, the thing we traditionally put at the very top of our resumes, are depreciating that fast, the entire labor market has to reorient.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If hard skills are falling off a cliff in value, something has to be appreciating to take its place.
Absolutely.
What is the new premium?
The new premium is found in what we used to dismissively call soft skills.
I love this part.
The Oxford Martin School research officially classifies skills like deep empathy, conflict resolution, complex ethical judgment, and high-level strategic vision as unautomatable assets.
Unautomatable assets. I love that phrasing. It reframes the entire conversation. Soft skills always sounded like something nice to have, like, oh, he's a good team player.
Right, like a bonus.
But unautomatable assets sounds like the core value proposition of a human being.
It represents the absolute bottleneck of current and foreseeable artificial intelligence.
Give us an example of that.
Let's look at a practical scenario. An AI can draft a perfect severance agreement and outline the exact legal steps for corporate restructuring in 3 seconds.
Sure, easily.
But that AI cannot sit across the table from a terrified employee who has just lost their livelihood, read their microexpressions, de-escalate their anxiety through shared human empathy, and navigate the incredibly messy emotional reality of that situation.
It can't look them in the eye.
It cannot. Or, take another angle, an AI can calculate the most profitable way to extract resources from a region, but it cannot make a nuanced, deeply human ethical judgment about how that extraction might subtly destroy the cultural fabric of a local community.
We're looking at a total flip in the script. We are moving from an era that heavily rewarded IQ to an era that exclusively rewards EQ.
Emotional quotient, yes.
EQ and high-level strategic vision. Your ability to connect, to empathize, and to lead with a moral compass is no longer just a nice bonus. It's your primary economic driver.
So I want to throw a question directly to you, the listener.
Yeah, listen to this.
Take a hard look at your own day-to-day work right now. Audit your calendar for the last week.
Do an audit.
Are you relying primarily on the repetitive logical tasks that are dropping in market value by 25% a year?
Wow.
Or are you actively carving out time to invest in your unautomatable assets? Are you building relationships, solving complex human conflicts, and setting the creative vision for your team?
That is the ultimate audit you can do for your career today. And it perfectly sets up the strategy for how you actually operate as this new human in the real world.
It really does.
I saw this term exoskeleton strategy heavily referenced in the Ken 3 script, and honestly, it sounds a bit like science fiction. What exactly does building an exoskeleton mean for a normal professional or a solopreneur who is just trying to stay ahead of the curve?
The exoskeleton strategy is essentially the operational blueprint for the Centaur model. It's the practical application of the 80-20 rule to your daily life.
The 80-20 rule.
The concept is that you use AI to entirely encapsulate and automate the 80% of your work that is routine.
The grind.
The grind, exactly.
Yeah.
The drafting of emails, the scheduling, the preliminary market research, the basic code generation, the data formatting. You build a digital exoskeleton around yourself to handle all of that heavy lifting.
By automating that 80%, you completely free up the remaining 20%, what the sources call your human core.
Yes.
And that human core is exactly where your unautomatable assets live. That's where your vision, your empathy, and your strategic direction come into play. You wear the AI to do the exhausting, repetitive labor while you sit in the center and steer.
The truly fascinating part of the research is how rapidly the tools to build this exoskeleton are advancing.
It's moving so fast.
We're moving past the days of just typing a prompt into a chatbot and getting an answer. The Ken 3 script highlights the rise of what are called agentic workflows. We're seeing platforms like AutoGPT Devon and Crew AI fundamentally change the nature of delegation.
Okay, I really want to pause and dive into agentic workflows because I think this is where the magic really happens for the listener. How does an agentic workflow actually differ from the everyday AI tools most people are already using?
Think of it as the difference between a calculator and a digital employee.
Okay.
With a standard AI model, you ask a question, you get an answer, and the interaction ends. The AI has no agency.
Right, you have to keep prompting it.
Exactly. An agentic workflow is an autonomous system. You don't give it a prompt. You give it an objective.
Like a goal.
Yes, a high-level goal. You might say, research the current market trends for sustainable packaging in the coffee industry. Identify the top 3 competitors, draft a preliminary marketing strategy to counter them, and create a visually appealing slide deck presenting these findings.
And the agent just goes out and does it.
It breaks that massive objective down into subtasks. It searches the live internet, reads the reports, synthesizes the data. It might spawn a sub-agent to handle the drafting of the text.
It creates its own sub-agents.
Yes, and another sub-agent to generate the images for the slide deck.
Yeah.
They communicate with each other, correct their own errors, and ultimately deliver the finished project to your desk.
It is blowing my mind just thinking about the scale of that.
Yeah.
Our sources talk about this creating the one-person unicorn.
The one-person unicorn.
A single founder who is acting entirely as the visionary, the human core, while managing a team of autonomous agents that act as the head of product, the entire marketing department, the junior developers, and the legal review team.
It's incredible.
A single person could conceivably run a company that used to require 50 employees.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at a foundational economic concept called the theory of the firm.
Okay, break that down.
Historically, economists have asked, why do massive corporations even exist? Why do we have these giant monolithic companies instead of just millions of independent contractors trading with each other?
Because doing everything yourself used to be impossible. You couldn't build a car in your garage by yourself.
Precisely. It comes down to the cost of coordination.
Oh.
Think about Henry Ford building the Model T.
Right.
To build something that complex at scale, you needed to coordinate thousands of people. You needed assembly line workers, managers, to watch the workers' HR departments, to pay the managers' communication infrastructure, physical office buildings.
So much friction.
Huge amounts of friction. The cost and friction of getting all those humans to row in the exact same direction was enormous. Corporations grew massive because internalizing all that coordination was the only way to get complex things done.
But with agentic workflows and the exoskeleton strategy, the cost of coordination is essentially dropping to zero.
Zero.
You don't need a sprawling HR department to manage 10 AI agents. You don't need to rent office space for them. You don't need to navigate workplace politics. One person with a clearly defined vision and strong ethical judgment can coordinate the equivalent of a massive corporate department instantly and practically for free.
It completely levels the playing field. An individual sitting at their kitchen table with a laptop and a well-designed exoskeleton can now legitimately compete with legacy corporations that have thousands of employees and massive overhead.
It is arguably the most empowering shift in human history for the individual. If you want to build something, the barriers to entry have never been lower. The tools to build your exoskeleton are out there right now, and most of them are incredibly cheap or entirely open source.
You just have to decide to learn them.
You do. However, we do have to look at the other side of this coin. As incredibly empowering as this is for the individual who chooses to adapt and build their centaur model, the macro-level implications for society are deeply concerning.
Sure.
Now, Yuval Noah Harari takes a pretty severe stance here in his book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And to be clear, we aren't taking a political side on this deep dive or endorsing a specific ideology.
Right, we're just reporting what the sources say.
Exactly. But we have to look at the warning he's putting on the radar. The sources pull heavily from his work to outline the potential rise of what he controversially calls the useless class.
A very heavy term.
That is a very jarring term. What exactly is he referring to?
Harari is warning that the fundamental nature of inequality is about to mutate. For almost all of human history, the major societal divide has been economic, the struggle between the rich and the poor.
Right.
But a wealthy person and a poor person at their core fundamentally possessed the same biological cognitive processing power.
Same brains.
Same brains.
Yeah.
The new divide, the new class struggle is going to be between the augmented and the unaugmented.
The people who have built their exoskeleton versus the people who have refused or been unable to.
And the risk factor here is something researchers are terming biological inequality.
Biological inequality.
Yes. If one group of people integrates with these AI systems, whether they're eventually integrating cognitively through neural interfaces or simply economically through these powerful agentic workflows we just discussed, they are going to exponentially outpace those who do not.
Right. It's an unfair fight.
It is functionally the equivalent of competing against someone with an IQ of 500 and the ability to work 24 hours a day without sleeping.
If the productivity of the augmented becomes that incredibly high, the unaugmented simply will not be able to compete in the marketplace.
They'll be priced out of employment.
It threatens to create a permanent socioeconomic gap that might be utterly impossible to cross once it gets wide enough. Which brings us to a really stark reality about the future of work. We hear a lot of panic about technological unemployment, the idea that jobs are just going to vanish entirely.
But the sources point more toward massive job redefinition.
Right, job redefinition.
The jobs of the future won't necessarily disappear into thin air, but they will be radically redefined around AI integration. It goes back to that old but very accurate saying, AI is not going to take your job. A person using AI is going to take your job.
If you are listening to this and you refuse to pick up these tools, if you insist on manually grinding through the 80% of routine work because, quote, that is how I have always done it, unquote, or because you think learning the AI tools is too frustrating, you are effectively choosing to become a relic.
You're voluntarily opting into that unaugmented class.
You have to adapt because the economic incentives for companies to hire centaurs are simply too massive for the market to ignore.
The transition period is going to be intensely disruptive and likely very painful for industries that rely heavily on those depreciating hard skills. But the sources make it abundantly clear that resistance at an individual level is futile. Your only viable path forward is integration.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, so let's do a quick recap of the journey we've taken through this research. We are fundamentally moving away from an industrial era that rewarded pure IQ, raw processing power, and hard technical skills.
We are
entering a completely new age that disproportionately rewards EQ, ethical judgment, strategic vision, and the ability to operate within the centaur model.
Those traditional hard skills are actively depreciating at 25% a year.
Huge drop.
Your true long-term value lies entirely in your unautomatable assets, your empathy, your intuition, your human connection.
Your personal mission right now, starting today, is to begin building your exoskeleton. Find the tools that automate the routine 80% of your life so you can fiercely protect, cultivate, and elevate that 20% human core.
Protect the core.
Because if you don't take the initiative to merge with these tools, you risk falling on the wrong side of the most profound divide in human history, the gap between the augmented and the unaugmented.
It is a phenomenal amount of change to process. But before we wrap up, there's one last thread in the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI research that we didn't even have time to untangle today.
Oh, right. The final thought.
It pushes this entire conversation beyond economics and straight into philosophy. They call it the Turing trap, or the idea of the soul in the code.
This one kept me up at night. If you successfully build your exoskeleton and you offload your logic, your coordination, and your daily routines to an autonomous agent, and over time, that digital agent learns to perfectly simulate your personality, your exact tone of voice, your empathy, and your unique decision-making style.
Where exactly does the machine end and your soul begin?
If the digital ghost inside your exoskeleton can mimic your unautomatable assets so well that the outside world cannot tell the difference, what is left of your unique human core?
That's a profound question.
We are going to leave you to chew on that provocative thought today. The world is changing faster than ever, but by understanding the Centaur model, you have the blueprint to navigate it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay sharp, and we'll see you next time.